Investments in federal government savings bond rise by 53% to 7.5 trillion naira. Oil rises and market caution over supply concerns, plus Asia-Pacific markets in green territory this Tuesday. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leakatun Babatunde. You're welcome. All right, we'll begin the business of the day by informing you that Nigeria's debt servicing bill has increased by 109% to 896.56 billion naira. As a result, the country has also spent 3.83 trillion naira on debt servicing payments in 15 months. This is according to data obtained from the Debt Management Office DMO. While a total of 2.93 trillion naira was spent on debt servicing payments in 2021, a total of 896.56 billion naira was spent in the first quarter of 2022. Meanwhile, between October and December 2021, Nigeria spent 310.5 billion naira on domestic debt servicing, while it spent $286.35 million on external debt servicing, giving a total of 429.4 billion naira. However, between January and March 2022, Nigeria spent 668.69 billion naira on domestic debt servicing, while it spent $548.79 million on external debt servicing, giving a total of 896.56 billion naira. Investments in the federal government savings bonds rose by 53% year-on-year to 7.5 trillion naira in the first half of the year from 4.9 trillion naira in the corresponding period of last year. Analysis showed that the sharp increase in investors' patronage for federal government savings bond in the first half of 2022 is driven by higher interest rate compared to interest rate on treasury bills. The average interest rate on 2-year and 3-year federal government savings bond in the first half of 2022 stood at 8.89% and 9.89%, representing 2.82 percentage and 3.82 percentage points above the 6.07% interest rate offered on the 1-year treasury bills last year. And so how much is the naira exchanging for other currencies? Let's find out. A national agriculture census is in the offing with a view to increasing output in the entire agri-value chain and achieving food sufficiency. To this end, the National Bureau of Statistics has brought together trainers from across the country who will in turn train others on the requirements to conduct such a census. Muplang Dakok reports.
The federal government has said it is committed to improving the agricultural sector, whose activities account for more than 25% of the economy. However, this cannot be achieved without vital information about the sector.
The success of all our policies, plans, and programs can only be achieved with the right data underpinning them. Hence, the very high premium this government has placed on quality data.
The National Agricultural Sample Census being planned by the National Bureau of Statistics is targeted to fill this weakness in agricultural statistics production in Nigeria.
It is important to know what we produce and how much of it that we produce. It is also important to know what part of the country they are produced and the kind of inputs needed to produce them.
Then came in these trainers from the 36 states of the country and the FCT to Abuja, who will be trained to in turn train other enumerators in their states on the use of digital devices for carrying out a comprehensive agri-census. It is expected that upon completion of the exercise, government and policymakers will have information for planning and policy monitoring within the agricultural sector.
Now, in an effort to complement federal government's drive aimed at ensuring food security, another rice mill that can produce more than 1,000 bags of rice per day has been inaugurated in Abuja, and Olayinka Ojo has that report.
A United Nations report states that 13.3 million Nigerians have food shortage. And a week ago, the federal government, through the Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment, Mariam Katagu, at the just concluded 12th World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference held in Geneva, Switzerland, reiterated the need for countries with emerging economies to adopt measures geared towards addressing the difficulties they are facing in food production and improve livelihoods. Few days after, this rice mill, capable of producing more than 1,200 bags of rice, has come alive in Abuja. This rice mill will add its quota in the Rice Revolution vision that aims to address problems associated with food shortage in the country.
With the war right now going on between Ukraine and Russia, grain and the price of grain has skyrocketed. And if you can commend this government for their initiative to empower farmers to farm grains, that is why we are not feeling the pinch. And this is another addition to ensuring that we still have our rice to eat.
Riding on the back of AFCFTA, rice millers are looking to enter the continental market fully.
FCFTA gives us that opportunity to do this. Why am I saying this? When you look at how much rice, bag of rice, 50 kg is sold in other countries, even though we said it's expensive in Nigeria, it's even more expensive across African nations. And we can use this to save the soul of Naira, by exporting to this country and also keep increasing employment locally, I mean in Nigeria.
Interestingly, this mill runs on biogas, a move designed to simmer the effects of poor power supply.
Now, with food shortage a global challenge, of course, the federal government recently tasked developing countries to adopt measures geared towards addressing the difficulties they are facing in food production and improve livelihoods. How can these be achieved? That is the focus of our discussion this morning. And to speak on this is a senior economist with SPM Professionals, Paul Adlajay, and of course you're moving from the factory into the studio. Welcome to Business Express.
Thank you so very much for having me. Good morning, and good morning Nigerians and those across the world.
Oh, fantastic. So Food security has been one of the issues you have talked about with us on this program for quite a while. How would you assess the present state? What exactly is our picture right now?
Well, 3.5 million is what international organizations are saying we are having food shortage over. The good news is that we can surpass that by even exporting food to the rest of Africa under African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. We can also do the same by exporting to the rest of the world. The question is, what must we do? What do we have? First of all, what is in our control? We have a population of 206 million people, as at the last estimate by the National Census. Most of these people in the population are young people that are not fully engaged. Now, we have a lot of states that people have called civil servant states. And when you check, they are agrarian in nature. If you travel from Gwagwalada in Abuja to Lokoja, or you travel from Abuja to Kaduna, you see the bush on the right and on the left. We complain of insecurity. Meanwhile, the thing that will take us from poverty, hunger, and deprivation is what the enemies of our country are using to attack us. What we need to do is for state governors, and it's important for state governors to see the need, where they need to work with federal government to ensure that output of farm produce increase significantly. Organize people, organize your people. I give you an instance. This is Abuja. Nothing stop people in Lokoja, Kogi State, from producing what can be consumed in Abuja, the FCT, where you have a lot of public sector and private sector individual. There may be not too much farm in Abuja, even though there are some in Abuja. But when you look at Nasarawa State, you look at Plateau State, you look at Kogi State and Niger State, the stories around these states are not the kind of story that we should be hearing. Insecurity concerns every day. But when you change the orientation of the people based on the area of competitive cost advantage to farming, to output, and this will not just come from federal government, because the state and local government are closer to the people. I give you an instance which I've shared on your show before, I think with your colleague. Nigeria, every time, not just every year, every time, we have core members, over 250,000. What I propose to government and people, when I say government, not just federal, even state government, is create a farm settlement from state to state, because coppers are in local government, from local government to local government. Look at Plateau, for instance. When it comes to what do we call it now? Potatoes. Not sweet potato, Irish potato. Kogi has competitive cost advantage over every other state. I said Kogi. Plateau has competitive advantage over every other state in Nigeria. You need a medical doctor on farm. You need an economist on farm. You need farmers on farm. You need a pharmacist on farm. You need an engineer on farm. Let the output be based just on coppers. To me, that is when they are truly serving the country. Not when they go to Antiparts, quote and unquote, nursery and primary school and teach. The private sector person can actually employ people. We have a lot of NCE holders who are out there that can work. We have a lot of volunteers. But for coppers and for those who are out of job, if there's a structure to farming and government deploys security personnel because of the reality of today to protect these coppers, they are leaving their state, they know they are going straight to farm settlement to boost output. That is when people like me, who is both an economist, we have seen what theory, micro, and all of those have said, we are now coming to the real sector to also support the effort of government by taking people that are jobless, they are bringing them to job market, to also improve the output by increasing supply side, so that there will be more food for our people to eat. But if grain is expensive, the grain, if it's expensive, what happens? We will keep importing food. And the FX is a big challenge. Central Bank is doing everything to save the soul of Naira. The good news of the concern is that Central Bank cannot print the US dollars. It is what we have in excess and we export to the rest of the world that we can gain FX from. But for agro, where Nigeria seems to have competitive cost advantage, we cannot limit it by just allowing people to use other cutlass, that it will be fine someday.
Exactly.
It is by us. It is by us as government and as a people. We have 36 subnationals. We have the FCT. We have over 770 local governments. With the federal government, the big brother, coming together. This is what I expect National Economic Council to discuss. How do we empower young people in Nigeria? If it is farming, we have a lot of them that even turn their farm to e-commerce because they are talented. We have a lot of them that will see beyond just rice. Some may go into meat, some may go into millet. Nigeria has over 100 billion import bill over wheat before Russia-Ukraine war started. Central Bank is saying we want to support our farmers so that we can plant locally. The question is, who will plant these? Older generation or younger generation? For young people, what initiative will you give them? Somebody may come, have land dispute, it will affect the farm. But when state and local government guarantees farm, and also ask farmers, whether young or old, private or public, to go into cooperatives so that they can have access to farm tools for them to farm and have significant output. Don't worry. Manufacturer Association of Nigeria and Association of Millers, we come together to see how can we take this output, because even if you produce cotton and you export your output to the rest of the world for them to give us clothing, we are still losing.
Yeah,
we have not optimized the quality. Jobs, number one for me. Profit will come to entrepreneurs, definitely. But how do we reduce 33.1% unemployment rate? That is why all of us, whether in government or not in government, private sector, public sector, whether employed or not, we must understand this is the only country we have. And we must do everything possible to ensure that we put people to job, number one, and reduce insecurity.
Yes.
In our country.
Yes. Talking insecurity, I would come to that in a bit. But then when we look at the whole agri sector, we've talked about agribusiness, like forever now, but yet you pointed out as well, we still do the hoe and cutlass thing. Why are these machineries so expensive? Why are we not producing them locally to reduce the import bill? Why are we not having Nigerians getting interested in doing that? Then you don't talk of diesel, because a couple of weeks back I spoke to some farmers who told me they wouldn't be able to get tractors because of the cost of diesel. So hiring those equipment have also gone up, and we're talking about bringing down inflation. Then the value chain, the food wastage is still there. Do we have anything in the offing that we can latch on to see that we reduce this to the barest minimum this cropping year?
The truth is, there are a lot of concern. If you dwell with the concern, it will not end. Diesel, as at yesterday, because we have to consume about 1,000 liters a day for our production, is 800 naira per liter. We have an option. Either we face the hurdle, overcome the hurdle, and become successful, or we leave the hurdles and run away. So we have option, and we have decided we are going to face the hurdle. All nations of the world have concerns, all nations. But those that have decided to fight on and stay in the game, they've always succeeded. But those that have complained, rather than looking for solution, they've had challenges. The truth is, farmers in their level of income cannot afford to produce and at reasonable price for the population. This is where you need local government and state government. Federal government is too far for this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You need local government and state government. Put the farmers into cooperatives. If you are using tractor in farm A, in a district, in a section, farm B may not necessarily use tractor that week. When they are done, when their output comes, when they are selling their output with the support of local government or state government, part of the proceed, whatever the cost will be, will now be paid back to the local government or state government. Before now, Nigeria's mainstay was cocoa. We have produce examiners. We have a council for cocoa. And that was huge money for Nigeria. We saw what that did in the western region of those days. Government was there to support. And people will say, no, it's a capitalist system, it's a market system. It's not very correct. In year 2000, there was Cancun talk. Cancun talk where African leaders challenged European leaders that you asked us to remove subsidy on our petrol, on our diesel, on everything, but you go behind and support and give subsidy to your cotton farmers. Why are we not supporting agro sector, where we know that if there is no food, we are all dead? If you are relying on the rest of the world for weapons to fight enemies, should we also rely on them for food that we eat? So there are challenges, but there are also ways of solving this problem. The first way of solving the problem is we need to be organized, which seems to be everywhere. 2, we need to get labor correctly. There are issues around financing and affordability for farms. Before private sector will come and invest in farm, which is where we should get to in the long run, they need to be guaranteed that output will be available. And government will also give waivers. Waiver for importing equipment and machineries, because there seems not to be communication among government agencies. For instance, a government agency in Abuja may say they want to support import of equipment. If they make provision of money for or support, when it gets to customs say we are not aware. You have to pay 100% for clearing, and that will delay. Such person we have to pay terminal owners, we have to pay demorages, and so on and so forth. And before you know, it's going to affect us. But more importantly, how do we get young people, corpers, graduates on farms? But not just on farm to farm in their backyard, because that is economic tokenism. It's for us to establish major mass land for farming to take place, and not just all produces, what we need, what we are consuming, what we are importing to reduce the pressure on FX. Central Bank will be happy, all of us will be happy, then inflation can go down significantly.
Okay, I guess we'll have to call you back, because I'm told we don't have any more time for this conversation. Thank you, Mr. Paul,
Thank you so much
always coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we move straight to surviving COVID-19, and we'll be joining Joyna Agida, and she is a baker and chef who was forced to improvise in the midst of lockdown to still make a living.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
It's an online bakery, currently available to only residents in Abuja. But I just finished baking our infamous honey cinnamon muffins, and I was just about to put them in the basket. This is a honey cinnamon muffins. I'll tell you guys later what is inside. Right now, I just want to arrange them into the basket while having a little chat with you guys about how my business started in COVID. And then I advertised my muffins, and that's how I get my orders. So imagine not being able to go anywhere to deliver these muffins. And I don't have the funds to open a cafe or own a bakery, so I have to do everything from my house. And that was how I started in lockdown.
How did COVID affect your business?
Well, because we had to be in lockdown. It was very, very difficult being able to market the goods. And then when you eventually get someone that buys, the restrictions you have to go to deliver to them, it was really, 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 really hectic, and I had to stop for a little bit until the restrictions were lighted.
Would it make a difference to your business if you got it?
Oh yes, very much. It would definitely make a huge difference, because right now I'm currently running it from my home, but if I got a loan that would help me set my business ahead, I'll be able to take it to a larger scale and get proper tools and equipment that would require a good chef to run a bakery, basically. So yes, the loan would be very, very, very good if I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in
Stocks began the week bleeding as the bearish hold persists to see the all-share index decline by 1.97%. The index opened this morning at 50,756.74 points. Equity capitalization also declined to resume at 27.363 trillion naira. Beg your pardon. 345 million equities exchanged hands in 5,075 deals valued at 3.073 billion naira. We move to the global market with Nekaoko.
Pacific markets were mostly buoyant on Tuesday, while Bitcoin continued to rise after a recent rebound. Japanese stocks led gains, with the Nikkei 225 trading 1.84% higher, as Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index climbed 1.18%, with the Shanghai Composite dipping 0.78%. U.S. stock futures rose in early morning trading Tuesday following a brutal week as investors assessed a more aggressive Federal Reserve and rising chances of a recession. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped 370 points, S&P 500 futures climbed 1.38%, and Nasdaq 100 futures also rose 1.44%. European stocks are expected to open higher this Tuesday, continuing a recovery seen at the start of the week. The UK's FTSE index is seen opening 17 points higher at 7,132. Germany's DAX 46 points higher, and France's CAC 40 up 23 points. African markets are open but are yet to post numbers.
And this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access all previous episodes on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on our social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Do join us again Wednesday at 3 p.m. for another package. I'm Leah Katung Babatunde, saying God bless Nigeria.